So I love the Oscars, but I also kind of hate the Oscars, and I love to hate the Oscars, but I also kind of hate to love the Oscars. How does one reconcile this? Well, first of all, I don't think that any other award show, and arguably any other live TV event, of which there are increasingly few that matter, has provoked as much simultaneous love and hate as the Academy Awards. At the very least, it's the award show that still seems to get the most mainstream attention. And whether you're thinking artistically or politically, the Oscars have generally been known more for their misses than their hits. Personally, I don't think there's much point in arguing over which award winners should be labeled as the right or wrong picks, because they're the result of thousands of votes from people who have a wide breadth of experience and taste. To me, people who get really mad about Oscar nominations are the same kind of people who get really mad about Rotten Tomatoes scores. Like, they don't seem to understand how the system actually works, or that people might just not have the same artistic sensibilities as them. My point is, the Oscars are a celebration of the film industry, not the film market. That industry is very insular, and people who make films look at them and their impact very differently than the people who consume them, no matter how much of them they consume. Also, the media that we consume and the ways that we consume it has become so segmented and individualized that I think it's hard to see a place for any event that tells you what the best of any art form is. There's just so much stuff out there now and so many ways to get it that public consensus can't really exist anymore. So the Oscars are a little old-fashioned, at least in terms of the current moment. And although the tides are shifting slowly, the attitudes behind it are also fairly old-fashioned. Many genre films, regardless of their quality, rarely even see nods in technical categories, and crucial aspects of the industry like stunt work are overlooked entirely. I think the main reason for this is that the Academy wants to preserve a more traditional image of what film is, and they're biased towards success within those parameters. And the older I get, the less I disagree with that notion, especially as the biggest films of the year grow more reflective of corporate interests than artistic ones. But also, the lack of recognition in this one sphere doesn't take away the achievements of non-traditional work, and an Oscar nomination doesn't automatically make a film better or more valid. At the same time, I've been guilty of treating a Best Picture nomination like a stamp of quality, and I try to seek out every single one after they're announced each year. So the boost that they give to underseen films, even ones that nerds already know about, is very real. I don't know, something about the Oscars makes me want to engage as a viewer as much as I can. I'm not really a sports person, obviously, but these awards are the only thing that get me to tap into that kind of competitive spirit. I get so engaged with the nominations and the prediction cycle, and I've been to some really great Oscar parties where the energy in the room gives each award a little more tension. That kind of communal experience, which film is built on as an art form, is crucial. And even in years where nominations have pointed to a somewhat obvious answer, I still get excited because I generally have a good experience with the show itself every time. But even if the show doesn't change my life, that's not really why I'm watching. I'm watching because it's a celebration of the people behind the art I love, and in many cases, an Oscar win is life-changing for them. But there's two sides to that statement, because awards are supposed to be a bonus for a film's accomplishments, not the goal. But because those traditional parameters have been rewarded over and over again, and will be in the future, there are some artists who very obviously have Oscars in their crosshairs when they're making a movie. I'm not going to name names, but I'm sure you have one in mind. Still, as minutely annoying as Oscar bait can be, however you choose to define that, any movie that gets made is still the result of a lot of hard work and passion, and that should be acknowledged. Whether you connect with a story or not, the devaluation of the craft behind it is why AI is looming so large over the industry. Power is being taken away from artists bit by bit, so movies where you can still feel a human touch mean a lot to the humans who are actually producing them. Also, in a social media landscape where it feels like everyone became a film critic overnight, and with film as a medium being increasingly shifted into an endless conveyor belt of more content, achievements of craft are rarely celebrated publicly, and ultimately craft is what draws people in. It's what creates the next generation of movie lovers and sometimes movie makers. Unless, of course, you just have a famous dad or something, but again, not naming names. You know, when I think back to why I started connecting with these awards, I think about staying up late and watching them as a kid, hearing about all these movies that were so unfamiliar to me, but intriguing because they were provoking this kind of passion and appreciation appreciation. I think the Oscars are a large factor of why I like to explore films that don't immediately grab me by premise or marketing, because you never know what's going to hit you or how hard it's going to hit you. So if Oscar attention leads someone, young or old, to seek out a cinematic experience that they otherwise wouldn't have had, and one that sticks with them, that's a victory for art. That's how we win. And sometimes we get to see the industry behind the art agree with us. Sure, it's annoying when they disagree, but the films still live on. So yeah, I do love the Oscars. I love what they represent, I love the potential they inspire, and I love the journey they take me on every year. But I also kind of hate them. I hate their limitations, I hate the repetition they can inspire, and I hate how excited I get watching famous people get little statues. But love it or hate it, I'll always be watching. And no matter how you feel, I think we can all agree on one thing. Fuck Emilia Perez.
Men to woman, or woman to men.
Man to woman.
From penis to vagina.